Yeah, welcome all to the Amma Eye Organ Body Donation Promoter Organization Hyderabad. Now, today's special program tandem donation by Dr. JVS Vidyasagar Garu, Hyderabad from Hyderabad. So I ask, I invite Ishwar Lingam Garu first for introduction of our organization. Welcome, sir. Ishwar Lingam.
Thank you, Krishna Chand Garu. Welcome all dear, my dear friends. Today we are conducting public awareness about tendon donation in English. Dear sir, madam, at our organization Amma Eye Organ and Body Donation Promoters Organization Hyderabad, as on today, from September 2016, as on today, 568 corneas have been collected by our organization and give to corneal donors through various eye banks. We have been able to reincarnate by donating 6 kidneys, 3 livers, and 1 heart from brain dead patients. 73 dead bodies collected from body donors' family members and distributed to Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra medical colleges. We have conducted 100 awareness programs in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh states. We seek to create awareness importance of blood, eye, organ and body donation. We are trying to achieve this goal across all the villages, mandals, towns and cities across Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. If you need more information about how we operate, please reach our contact number 949107490 and another number 9550894940. Email ammaiorganbody@gmail.com. Yours sincerely, Ganji Ishwar Lingam, founder of President. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for introducing our organization. And now I'll briefly introduce our main organization core team members. So firstly, I introduce our chief advisor Penmacha Suparaj Garu. He is chief advisor of this organization. Welcome, sir. And Gutta Jochna, she is honorary president to this organization. And Ganji Ishwar Lingam Garu is founder president of this organization. And Kishore Garu, Kishore Garu is general secretary of this organization. And myself, my name is DL Krishna Chand. I am working as a treasurer to this organization. And another member, core team member is Murthy Garu. He is core team member of this organization. These people are so many people are there, but these people are main core team of this organization. That's why I'm introducing briefly. And I invite Shankar Garu to introduce our chief guest, JVS Vidyasagar Garu. Welcome, sir, Shankar Garu.
Okay, sir. Audible, sir?
Yes.
Vinapardutunda?
Vinapardutunda.
Okay. Friends, I am very glad to introduce the eminent surgeon and personality, Dr. JVS Vidyasagar Garu, a popular and well-known orthopedician. He is very much known for the arthroscopy and sports medicine. He is one of the pioneers who initiated arthroscopy in India. He has been practicing for the last 30 years. His expertise lies in arthroscopic and joint replacement surgeries made him stand out from the rest. He has performed approximately 31,500 arthroscopic surgeries, 38,600 polio and cerebral palsy surgeries, 14,700 total trauma and spinal trauma surgeries, 13,400 knee and joint replacement surgeries, 4,000 shoulder and other joint surgeries, 27,800 knee joint surgeries. Since 1984 to 2008, he has served the department in various capacities. He has presented a good number of papers at national and international conferences. His articles were published in various journals and magazines. He has been recipient of many awards and medals. He has been a member of Indian Arthroscopy Society, Indian Orthopedic Association, Indian German Orthopedics Foundation. He is very much appreciated for his noble and dedicated service. I once again welcome Dr. Vidyasagar Garu for this evening webinar. I hope all the participants will know more about this important aspect. Thank you, one and all. Over.
Thank you for your introduction. Now I welcome Vidyasagar Garu for today's guest lecture. So welcome, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mute
Without
చేసి.
that, I thank the organizing committee, core committee members, and very dear Shankar Garu and Ishwar Garu and Krishna Chand Garu. Welcome to this webinar. Thank you very much for asking me to be part of this. Most of the people are aware of the eye donation. That is the commonest, and it has been there for a very long time now. And now slowly people are becoming aware about other organ donations also and body donation also. But there are several things in the human body which after death will be wasted anyway. And if they can be donated, they will help several patients to regain lost function in their joints and other parts. So as this, unless people know that they can donate such and such tissue, they won't be able to make a decision about it, especially because from the body from which we are going to take the tissue is dead. So that person cannot participate in the decision making, and it will be up to the nearest family members or whoever is available immediately. So they should have an idea about what can be donated and what can be useful, because we cannot just take any tissue. Radha?
Okay, sir. Okay, you can start.
Yeah. The idea of tendons being taken from the dead bodies and being used for treatment purposes is not a very new one. It was there in started in something like 1970s, and then, but the problem at that time was that these tendons have to be somehow sterilized, and people started using irradiated tendons. Irradiation damages the structure of a tendon, so most often the results used to be very bad. So gradually what happened, people have forgotten about these tendons and people have started using autologous grafts. The human organ donation is a noble cause, noble thought process. This allows the person to continue to live even after his death. That is a wonderful sentiment even. Human body is unique in the sense God has made all the organs which have a wonderful functional value during life. And the organs cannot be manufactured outside the human body. And eyes, kidneys, liver, lung, heart, pancreas, these things are usually donated. And we can also take bones, tendons, meniscal cartilages, even skin. The list keeps on growing as the technology keeps on going forward. The items which can be used also increases. To create this awareness, it is necessary that we tell people what are all the points which they can understand and help us create something like a tissue bank in which various organs and structures can be stored and used. So let us talk about the need, where we can use, and how we can take, how to preserve. Live organ donation is another, where a live person can donate an organ. Like a person has 2 kidneys, so naturally 1 kidney he can donate. Like that, part of the liver, 1 lobe of liver he can donate. And beyond that, other organs cannot be donated by a person who's living. He requires them for his own life. As far as bone is concerned, maternal fibula can be donated by mother for use in a child. But when you come to cadaver donation, both kidneys, whole liver, both eyes, tendons, the list is innumerable. Let us talk about the real clinical situations where we require. Being in orthopedics and sports injuries treatment, we come across knee joint injuries very commonly. Knee joints are injured in sports or even due to fall from 2-wheelers, etc. trauma. Knee joint is very commonly injured. Wherever there is no fracture also, due to twisting of the knee, the ligaments inside the knee get damaged. Ligament tears in the knee joint are also very common. 80% of the knee injuries are usually ligament injuries, especially if they happen in sports background. Then the joint becomes unstable once a ligament is ruptured. There are 2 major ligaments inside the knee in the center, one in the front, that is anterior cruciate ligament, one in the back of the knee, that is called posterior cruciate ligament. On the sides, medial collateral and lateral collateral ligaments. These 4 ligaments stabilize the knee joint. Commonest ligament injury in the knee joint is anterior cruciate ligament injury. Joint becomes unstable once the ligament is torn. This instability leads to secondary meniscal tears, damage to articular cartilage, and secondary osteoarthritis. So it cannot be left alone. These ligament injuries in a person who's into sports or has active life, like in police or military, where they have to run, they have to squat, they have to jump. For them, it is something like a career-ending injury. They have to change their job or stop doing whatever they are doing. That is the magnitude of these injuries. That's why they always require surgical correction. We cannot treat them without surgery. To do a surgical correction for a ligament injury, we require the usage of a tendon. If we take tendon from the person's own body, we call it autograft. Unfortunately, such autograft options are very limited in availability. We can take at the most hamstring tendon grafts, patellar tendon graft, and possibly quadriceps graft, and nothing more than that. Once a tendon graft is taken also, it leaves some weakness of the concerned muscle. A muscle to bone, that connection is the tendon. Once we remove the tendon for use as a ligament substitute, that particular muscle loses its muscle power to a large extent. To gain it back, it will be a Herculean task. A lot of exercises, physiotherapy are all required, and rehabilitation is very prolonged. Live donor is not an option when we talk about tendons, because that person himself requires the tendons. We cannot take away a tendon from a person and give to another person. From a cadaver, we can take. What is a tendon? Tendon is a strong collagen structure which connects a muscle to a bone. So when the muscle contracts, the tendon will transmit the muscle force and bone moves at the joint. So such a tendon cannot be removed from a normal person. So here to illustrate the muscle, here the tendon will be there. When this muscle contracts, this bone moves at this joint. The ligament injuries commonly happen in sports and also in, as I said, in road traffic accidents and other kind of injuries. Here for illustration, I'm showing some of these football injuries, skiing injuries. These things produce twisting of the knee joint, thereby leading to ligamental trauma and rupture. These are the ligaments we are talking about. This is the inside picture of the knee joint. The femur bone here you can see, tibia bone here you can see. Connecting them, you can see this is the anterior cruciate ligament, and this is the posterior cruciate ligament in the center of the joint. This one gets ruptured due to twisting. So this is one to show the illustration here, how the knee joint gets twisted, rupturing the ligament here. When that happens, there will be a collection of blood in the joint. If we aspirate with a sterile syringe, we can see the blood. And joint sags, the leg goes back. The leg will become unstable at the knee. So when we push and pull, we can see the tibia moving abnormally forward. And if we take an MRI, we can see this is the torn ligament. This is the ACL, anterior cruciate ligament, which is ruptured. This is the posterior cruciate ligament, which is intact. So to test how many millimeters of the laxity joint has, sometimes we use these machines. These are called arthrometers, KT1000 and KT2000 arthrometers. So to reconstruct that, we have to take either an autograft from the same knee joint or from the opposite knee joint, or allograft, which is from a cadaver. These are the tendons which can be taken: patellar tendon, hamstring tendon, quadriceps tendon. This is an autograft. If it's an allograft, we have some more choice. You can take hamstring tendons, you can take tendo Achilles, you can take patellar tendon, even peroneus longus brevis. I'll show you the pictures of those shortly. This is how the patellar tendon can be harvested from the same knee joint to be used for reconstruction arthroscopical. This is arthroscopic picture showing inside of the joint, and this is a guide wire around which we make the hole and pass this graft. This is a graft. Here we are showing the graft which is taken, and here this is the graft. Here it is passing into the joint. If we take the patellar tendon graft, which I've shown illustrated in the previous slide, patients do develop some pain in the knee joint following this graft. Pain while kneeling on the ground, and there is an increased risk of the postoperative stiffness of the knee, risk of a patellar fracture sometimes, and weakness of the muscle, and a defect in the tendon which is taken away. There we will find a defect. And another option is taking hamstring tendons, autograft again, taking from the same person. These tendons are available by the side of the knee. I'll show you the picture now. See the picture. These are the tendons. We can make a small incision, isolate the tendon, and then take it with a tendon stripper. And this is the tendon after taking. This we can fold so that the length that is required and then diameter which is required is there. And then we introduce into the knee joint. Once we do, this is the arthroscopy picture. This is the tendon graft which is put. This is another way. Similarly, two tendon grafts. Even after hamstring tendons grafts are taken, there can be some damage to the branches of saphenous nerve, or post-operatively there can be a decreased range of flexion and also weakness of knee flexion and decreased internal rotation strength of the knee. These are the problems when we take graft from the same knee joint. That is exactly why we are looking for allografts. Allografts, when we take and we put, the patient, since we are not taking any tendon from his own body, he will not feel any deficiency. It avoids donor side morbidity and donor side problems in the patient. And especially, suppose we take one tendon, we do one reconstruction. After some time, maybe 6 months, 1 year later, he has another injury and then he ruptures that graft. Then from where we will get again autograft, which is difficult. Such situations is always useful if you have an allograft tendon available. Because the available tendons in the human body are limited. We cannot take more than a few. And a patient has, suppose a patient has a poor diameter graft tendon, then also it is not of much use. For doing, for example, to do this ACL reconstruction, which I showed, we require a minimum of 8 millimeters diameter and the length should be about 8 centimeters. Suppose a given person has very thin tendon. Even if we fold it 2-3 times, the diameter may not become 8. Suppose we stop at 6 mm diameter or 7 mm diameter, it has a risk of rupturing once again later. This dilemma won't be there if we are using allograft tendons, because diameter is never a problem with allograft tendons. So also length of the graft is also not a problem. We can always adjust it. And sometimes patients, when they fall down from two-wheelers or are involved in road traffic accidents, there may be multiple ligament injuries, not one ligament. They may have injury of 3-4 ligaments. Similarly, both knee joints may be injured. In such circumstances, the cadaver donation and allograft tendon is a boon. How to harvest a tendon from a cadaver? There are some points which we have to keep in mind. After death of the individual, the tendon can be taken from the cadaver in 3 to 4 hours after death. If somebody is harvesting the kidney or liver at the same time, tendons also can be harvested. So it is not an additional surgery. During the same period, this can also be done. And if body is preserved after death in ice, then we will get time 6 to 12 hours in which to take the tendon graft. And only requirement is the death of the patient must be due to non-infective cause. If patient died of sepsis or anything, infection reasons, then we cannot use the tissue. Similarly, viral screening must be negative. HIV and HBsAg, these virus should be negative. The test must be negative. From such a body only we can take tendons. And it has to be done in the hospital. In the operation theater setup, only we can take the tendon grafts. And under proper surgical preparation and sterile draping, just like we do a normal surgery. Under such circumstances only we can take graft even from a dead body. It can be done along with the teams which are harvesting other organs. like kidney, liver, etc. Then it will be very easy to do. All the things can work simultaneously. Tendons of the lower limbs are only preferred. We don't take tendons from the upper limbs. We take from lower limbs only. And it can be done through small incisions using special tendon strippers. And very few skin stitches will be there. So at the end of this, the people, the attendants of the person, they should not feel that by taking away this tissue, we have made the body look deformed or anything. So if we take a tendon, body will not be deformed. In fact, there will be no change. Structural change will not be there. It will not be thin. So they need not be feeling bad emotionally also. There will be no disfigurement of the body. And this whole process takes less than 15 minutes. So time also is not a big question. Immediately after harvesting each tendon, it has to be thoroughly cleaned with the sterile normal saline. And little muscle tissue will be adherent to it. That muscle tissue should be removed. So only tendon will be there. And it should be soaked for a minimum of 30 minutes in sterile normal saline having gentamicin antibiotic. The tendon length and diameter must be measured, and we have to label it separately on a strip on a labeling paper. Then sample of the tissue is taken from it for doing microbiology culture test and also viral scanning. It is individually packed in a sterile triple packing, and on the packing, the index number, date of harvesting, details of tissue bank, etc. are mentioned, and also the size and diameter, length and diameter. After that, it is transferred to a refrigerator where minus 90-degree temperature is always maintained. For example, once a tendo Achilles is taken, it looks like this. This is tendo Achilles which is present in the leg. It is the tendon which connects the calf muscle to the heel bone. You can see a small piece of heel bone here. This is the tendon part. This looks like this immediately after taking. And this cryopreservation, we call it at minus 90 degrees. Tibialis anterior tendon, tibialis posterior tendon, peroneus brevis tendon, peroneus longus tendon, extensor hallucis longus. All these things can be taken from the cadaver. Advantages are it makes surgery very quick. See, this is the packing. We had the opportunity to use some of these grafts in reconstructing the ligaments in sports injuries. So we were getting these from a standard tissue bank. We cannot take from anywhere. We have to take from a licensed tissue bank where we can depend upon the history as well as we can depend upon the tests which are done and culture is sterile, such things. This is the sterile packing, outer packing. There will be this label you can see that tells you from which tissue bank we have taken and what is the tissue and then all the details about it. And inside, after opening the outer packing, inside again 2 packings will be there. This is second packing, and after that this is the tissue which will be taken out in the operation theater before doing the surgery actually. This is another tendon, tibialis anterior tendon. This is peroneus longus tendon. This is tibialis posterior tendon. This is flexor digitorum tendon. These are flexor digitorum tendons. 2 tendons are there. This is extensor digitorum tendon. This is extensor hallucis longus tendon. This is plantaris tendon. This is peroneus brevis tendon. This is peroneus brevis again. This is peroneus tertius. This is tibialis anterior and tibial peroneus longus. These are all the tendons. I have shown the pictures so that we give an idea that what are the tendons which can be taken and also how they look. And in the similar manner as I have shown the packaging, all these tendons have to be put in some similar packages. One tendon for one package. And about recipient, ligament injured patients, they will benefit from this. ACL ruptures, multiple ligament ruptures, re-ruptures, multiple joint injuries. These are the individuals who will benefit from this. Then how to transport this tissue from the tissue bank to the hospital where it will be used. That is in the sterile packages. These sterile packages must be put in ice box once they are taken out from -90. For transporting purpose, they should be put in ice box, and only in the operation theater, these packages should be opened, not outside. They should be opened only just before the actual surgery, taking sterile precautions by the team, by the surgical team only. Proper consent must be there, both from recipient as well as from the donor. This is our experience. This is a box which we receive from the tissue bank. This is after opening, inside this labeled package will be there. These are tendo-Achilles allografts. These are popular for anterior cruciate ligament reconstructions. This is after taking out, we are preparing the graft for putting inside the joint. Here, and this is after preparation. This is while being prepared. This is after putting it inside the joint. This is the arthroscopy picture of knee joint. Here you can see this is the graft which I have shown in the previous diagram. This is the picture you can see. This is the graft you are seeing. This is inside the joint. So like this, we conducted a small study where we found that in the literature, there is no consensus about either superiority of autografts over allografts or vice versa. They give all equal results. So there is no need that we have to use only autograft. If we use allograft, we are saving to the patient his own tendons so that rehabilitation becomes shorter. He will go back to his job and his pre-injury level of activities in an easy manner. We treated confirmed ACL deficient knees, the patients who were willing to participate in the study. After taking history, most of them were in 20 to 40 year age. You can see the population which will benefit from this. They were all men. They were all recreational athletes presenting with unstable knee, because of which they had to leave their sports. These patients were randomized into two groups, Group A and Group B. In one group, only autologous grafts. In another group, cadaver grafts. Then we compare the results. This is an example. This is the cadaver tendon after taking it out of the package. This is putting inside, arthroscopic picture. So when we reviewed the results at 1 year and 2 years later, we found almost that all the recipients who received allografts, they didn't have weakness of the concerned muscle. Those who received autografts, because we have taken away the particular tendon, they had muscle weakness. Group B, these are the people who received only cadaver grafts. There was no weakness of any muscle. There was early improvement of scores, and then within 6 months, they could go back to their activity which they were doing before injury. These are the results. 52% in group A and 49% in group B could return to pre-injury level of activities. The advantages of this tendo Achilles graft are technically it is easy to use compared to patellar tendon allograft. There is no potential for graft tunnel mismatch. That is, whatever length is required, whatever diameter is required, you can do it. You can use this graft. This graft diameter can easily be matched to the patient's requirement and patient's original size. Some problems have been actually there even in autografts and so also in allografts. Some people said when we take it from the cadaver, some infection can happen. But if all the rules are followed, this doesn't happen. Processed graft material is stored at -80 and it can be used for 3 to 5 years once we keep at this temperature and 24/7 maintaining the temperature. The importance of strict adherence to protocol is important to avoid graft contamination during processing of the tissue in the lab and in the tissue bank. This is another tissue, meniscus cartilage, which is also inside the knee joint, which also allograft can be used. This is after taking it out from the dead body, and this is after packaging, triple package, sterile triple package. After harvest, the graft is packed, and it is even the package can be barcoded also. And samples of soft tissue and bone are taken from aerobic and anaerobic bacterial culture testing, and then the graft is frozen. And also viral screening is done. Graft is used only after these results are obtained. Till then, they are preserved in the tissue bank. They cannot be released for use in the hospital until these reports are available. That's a very important aspect to prevent any infection happening. All biological tissue carry some risk of bacterial, viral, or prion disease transmission. And transmission of HIV and hepatitis C, these actually do not happen, but theoretically that possibility is there with allografts. The estimated risk, how much is the risk we are talking about? Suppose we give a bottle of blood to somebody, even after doing viral scanning and finding that HIV and HBsAg are negative in the donor, then also HIV can be there, not detected by the test. That is, if the person is in window period, after exposure to HIV, a person will be in window period for nearly 4 months' time, during which time the HIV test will be negative, even though the virus is present inside the body. During that period, if he donates a blood packet, that will carry this, and it will go to the recipient. Such chance in blood transfusion is there in 1 in 15 lakhs. If you give 15 lakh blood bottles, one person may be carrying that. One packet may be carrying that. Similarly, another study of a blood transfusion where 4 lakhs transfusions were studied and 6 lakhs. So 1 in 4 lakh to 1 in 6 lakh is the estimated risk with the blood transfusion. Similar risk will be there even in allografts, not any increased risk. Risk is same as blood transfusion. So the benefit of convenience, reduced donor site morbidity, and these are all favorable. And there are several studies which show that the results of allografts versus autografts, etc. And sometimes allografts were irradiated in the beginning periods, but irradiated and fresh frozen, the differences have been studied and it is found that Restorozan is the best option. So nowadays, most of the tissue banks are using this freezing only. Nobody is in favor of using irradiation. Low dose irradiation, even if it is low dose, number one, it will not be totally effective to remove all the virus, bacteria, everything. Same time, it will weaken the allograft tissue. So we will be having a poor graft. So better to use the freezing at -90 rather than go for this low dose irradiation. These are the reported problems which I just mentioned. These are the mentioned problems, but there is no proof for this. There are several studies, but no study has come out with any evidence against this. A tissue bank, for these reasons, it has to be certified by a governmental agency, organization, just like blood bank gets its license. Similarly, tissue bank also should be given a license and periodically inspected by a government committee, which will come inspect the standards as well as to inspect the SOPs, etc., and then reissues certificate. Only from such a bank we can take. And it should be a non-profit organization because human organs are not for sale. They are donated. So nobody should be making profit out of it. So it has to be run by a non-profit organization. And people who are working there must be qualified and trained in the technique of harvesting the graft, in the technique of preserving the graft, and also in refrigeration and maintaining the documents on the computers. Refrigeration facility requires -90-degree temperature for a SAL of 10 to the power of 6. Should have a UPS and generator backup so that 24/7 the -90 temperature is maintained. And computerized documentation is preferred. There are very few tissue banks available in India, though the requirement is much more, demand is much more than availability. And who will benefit from these cadaver allograft tendons? Patients who have injuries, ligament injuries, and who are from police, military, athletes who depend on their daily activity on, by putting a load on the knee and they have to run, jump, etc. And also patients who have multiple ligament injuries and patients who have re-injury. After getting it done, suppose they get injury again, for them the allograft is an option. And patients whose tendons are good, there is diameter is less, they also benefit from allografts. This is in gist what we aim to achieve. What is the present requirement is approximately 50,000 tendon allografts are required annually in India. But the supply is not that much. It's very, very low. I think this, if it generates interest in persons who are concerned, and also public is educated enough, then the situation will change, and it will be very beneficial to the healthcare sector, especially sports medicine and orthopedics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You are giving excellent PowerPoint in speech. Any questions? Please ask participation. Any doubts, questions?
Hello.
Tell me, sir.
Sir, is there any age limit for procuring tendons from deceased person?
No age limit. Any age is okay.
That what about in suicidal cases, whether tendons can be retrieved?
Yes, they can be retrieved.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So good evening. This is Meera from Mumbai.
Good evening, madam.
Very nice presentation, sir. It was really enlightening to hear from you, and hats off to you for your experiences of so many years. Really proud of you, sir. Just wanted to know what is the alternative that you are using now, since you're not getting any cadaver donations.
Yeah, we are not getting any cadaver donations, so we are using autographs. It is taken from the patient's own body.
But in case the patient is not able to sustain his own autographs, there are many cases in which the autographs are failing. So is there any chances that in tendons also the autographs fail?
Tendon autographs usually don't fail unless the patient has again injury, second injury, third injury. If they have, then only it happens. Otherwise,
Okay.
no. Otherwise, no.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any more questions, sir? Sir, I am asking one more question. Where is the tendon banks available in India?
Yeah, there is a tendon bank in Bangalore, MS Ramaya,
Okay.
and there is one in Coimbatore,
Okay.
and one in Mumbai, Tata Memorial,
Okay.
and in Delhi also they have started. The central government actually wanted to start 6 tissue banks in various cities, but for some reason it is not happening.
Achha.
Sir, Meera again here. One more question, sir.
Ask, madam.
Yes. Sir, I just wanted to ask now, supposing a person has received a tendon, okay,
Yeah, yes.
and what are the chances that he may have the same type of injury again? And how can the tendon, if the same tendon can be repaired or again it has to be replaced? And one more thing is, this donated tendon, can it be redonated after his death?
Excellent. Good.
It cannot be redonated.
Okay.
It is
And
only
what are the
for
chances of the same injury occurring again?
that injury happens if he is not careful, and he must have normal muscle power and prevent injury. The accident, when it has happened, suddenly it happens, so the rupture has happened. Once we have reconstructed, we always tell them exercises required for rehabilitation, do's and don'ts. We teach them. If they follow, then nothing happens.
How much time does it need after the surgery so the patient can, like, go to his normal things that he was doing before the accident or injury?
Now, minimum of 3 weeks to 6 weeks time.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Let's say if a person is bitten by a snake, so is his tendon be qualified to be donated or not?
Yes, it can be donated.
Okay. Okay. Snake bite be also taken to tendon donation.
You can take.
Okay. Welcome, sir.
See,
Okay,
death
thanks.
should not be because of infection. Any other reason, okay.
Okay. ఇప్పుడు ఎనీ కింగ్ కోబ్రా బైట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ పాసిబుల్ సార్ డొనేషన్ టు టెండన్?
Sure, sir. It can be taken.
Okay.
So, one more thing, like in other donation, we have so many contraindications. So in this only viral, this, as you said, this
Viral or any kind of infection should not be there.
any kind of infections, right? That is only, otherwise
HIV should not
we
be
have
there.
like the death due to respiratory thing. We do not take eye donation and all that. So in this case, anything is like that?
Yeah, no. If the respiratory problem is there and he died, heart problem or breathing problem, anything, tendons can be taken.
So what about cancer patients? After how many years of cured cancer can he donate?
If the cancer is not in the concerned area, suppose it is somewhere else in the body, it can be taken. Tendon graft can be taken.
Yeah, usually in organ donation, it is like 2 years. If the cancer is cured and that it does not relapse, then the person can donate the organs or any other tissues. So in this case, it is not necessary for any period like this.
No, not necessary, because
Okay, sir.
at
Okay,
the,
thank you.
at the area where we want to take tendon, there should be no problem.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. The program is very nice and very knowledgeable. I thank you very much to the doctor, sir, and to the participants who have come all over India. Thank you very much. This session is going to be closed. Thank you very much, one and all, once again, for your patience, having patience, and hearing the Dr. Sir's presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Excuse
sir.
me.